Alrighty, got a game here for the 2021 Dominion Championships. This is for the first round, which I think is, what round is this? This is the round of 512, I want to say. But there's somewhere fewer than 512 competitors. And so, for example, I've got a bye. So instead, I'll be watching one of the other rounds. Here we have seed 285, Shorty, playing seed 228, SvennoBenno. And then the winner will go on to play Auto PP, who is the 25th seed. I believe it's first to 3.5, so kind of functionally a best of 7. Alrighty, we got our first game. Let's see. So, I guess first things first, what are the boons for Druid? These look pretty mediocre. So you got draw with moat or hunting party. I guess theoretically Prince is also draw. Plus action, royal carriage, walled village, again theoretically Prince. Thinning. There's no good way to get rid of estates that I can see. Coppers are easy to trash. I mean, you could mint them. Probably more effective would be using treasure to thin your coppers. And then gains. You're a little gain limited. You might actually need to get Druid, even though the boons look terrible, just because it's the only plus buy source. And then Leprechaun might also be of relevance. Seems not too hard to activate Wish here. So for the opening, I would think, if you have the 5-2, it's probably just Treasure, maybe Treasure or Druid. It's a little early for the Druid, but you could consider picking it up on 2. For 3-4, I think I'm thinking about how to get to 5. I want to get an early Treasure and start thinning coppers. And Treasure is really good at hitting 5 again, which will get you to like hunting parties, which you probably want a bunch of. So I would think something like Silver Pageant, where you buy Pageant on the $4 hand and then you save a coffer. And then I think that guarantees with 100% certainty you hit 5 on the next shuffle. Because even if you bottom deck your silver, you'll have like a 3-4 split, and then you have a coffer banked up, and so you can buy a 5 on the $5 hand. So I like Silver Pageant, I think, for the opening. What'd they do? So they both open Leprechaun. That's a terrible idea. So Leprechaun is potentially good in this kingdom because gains are limited. Aside from plus buy on Druid, which is kind of a weak card. And so gaining a Wish is really nice, that you can turn that into like hunting party or royal carriage or whatever. But you're not getting the Leprechaun because it gains you gold. Gold is not that good. And certainly when you don't have deck control, putting a bunch of treasures in your deck is not good. On top of that, Leprechaun is A, giving you hexes, which are bad, and then B, not helping you hit 5 very much in the short term. If anything, it's hindering that pretty substantially because Leprechaun is a stop card that gives you 0 money. And so this Leprechaun is unequivocally a mistake. Let's see what we got from there on out. Silver, Druid, Passage. Buy. Another big mistake from Shorty on turn 5. Buying gold is an egregious error in a kingdom like this. Most kingdoms, really. So, the key cards here are a lot of the 5s. The goal in the opening is to get to 5 so you can pick up a treasure to thin your coppers so your deck gets thinner and more under control. And then once you got a treasure, I think you're just clicking hunting party for quite a while. So you have draw. And then once you're drawing your deck reliably, then you start thinking about adding payload, like maybe a Leprechaun or a Druid and stuff like that. Definitely hunting party before royal carriage for second 5. Royal carriage will be really good, of course, eventually. But I think one treasure, a bunch of hunting parties, at some point in there, royal carriage. I don't know exactly when. But anyways, yeah, buying gold is worse than useless. It's just thickening your deck, adding treasures, making it harder to get deck controlled. You're going to find your treasure less often. You're not going to have a treasure if you don't, buy action cards in the first place. All right, Svenno takes a hunting party on turn 6. I like that better. Yeah, I don't think Royal Carriage with the idea of playing it on treasure is like good enough to be worth doing. I mean, like you'll get like 8 money or something for doing that, but that's more than you need. You only need to hit 5 here in the early game to be able to reliably buy a 5 per turn. So hitting huge price points less relevant. Maybe if they were like Citadel or like an $8 card I wanted around, then something like Royal Carriage early would be considerable. But here I think just 1 treasure and then pick up a bunch of hunting parties so you draw that treasure every single turn is the way to thin fast, rather than adding a Royal Carriage to play your treasure more often. An 8 cost very much unlike Prince. Prince is not a strong card. The problem with Prince is, like, once you get it in play, it's a really good effect. Like, if you Prince, let's just say a walled village, right? Well, then you're getting 1 draw at the beginning of every turn. You're getting +1 card without having to draw a card. So it's like a hireling or a lab. And you're getting, like, functionally 2 village effects, because you're getting +2 actions, but you're not spending 1 action to play it. And so once that's down, that's, like, really good. The problem is Prince is just so uncomfortable to set up. It doesn't do anything for you immediately until you've got it in play. And so you've got to buy it, get back through your shuffle, and play it. And then the turn you're playing it, it's actually a huge hindrance to your deck. It is itself a terminal stop card that gives you no benefit the turn you play it, which hinders your deck a lot. And then presumably you're trying to Prince a valuable card, so like a walled village or something that you want in your deck. And so not only are you playing your Prince, you also have to forego playing that walled village for a turn, because you got to set it aside instead. And so Prince tends to be like very low tempo in that you buy it, and then its immediate effect is to hurt your deck a ton the next turn, and then it starts getting good. And so in like long drawn out games, that's definitely worth it. But oftentimes in shorter games, it's not ever worth taking the Prince when like you could just like buy a hunting party directly and get the draw that way. One of them took a mint. Let's see, what was that? Trash 4 coppers for a mint? Nah. I mean, like, that's not bad. Trashing 4 coppers for a mint is an okay trade. But I think treasure just looks better for thinning here. The mint is basically like a junk card in your deck, I think, once you've got it. Because you don't want to be gaining a ton of gold. If anything, you're probably going to have too many golds. Just because you are forced to take a gold whenever you play Leprechaun. And you want to be playing Leprechaun mostly for the wish. So the mint itself is not really useful. And I think treasure is like good enough. Like you'll get then a little bit more slowly with treasure. But you're going to be hitting 5 consistently and drawing consistently as long as you're hitting hunting parties. Hunting party, I think, can skip over coppers relatively well. Yeah, so here's the other problem with Prince, I guess. Aside from, like, the best case scenario is you actually draw it and successfully play it, but also, especially if you don't have deck control, which these players definitely do not, then you're liable to draw your Princes in hands without the target card, like your Secret Passage or your Walled Village or what have you, and then you don't even get to use it. Presumably hunting party here. Royal Carriage is okay too. I think until you're drawing your deck, I just want to click hunting party a ton. And then once I've got some deck control, I'd like to add some carriages when I can reliably pair them up with the good targets for them. Carriage notably does not work well with Leprechaun, which is unfortunate. So the first Leprechaun you play, you play at 7th, you can get a wish. Then you call a royal carriage. Well, now the royal carriage goes back into play, and so now you'd have 8 cards in play. And so even if you played a leprechaun at the correct point to gain the wish, like as the 7th card in play, once you call the royal carriage, the second play of the leprechaun caused by the carriage will not give you a wish because there'll be 8 cards now. Compare with most throne room variants like throne room or crown or king's court or whatever, where if you play the throne 6th and then the leprechaun 7th, you'll get 2 wishes, or 3 in the case of king's court. Yeah, royal carriage is, I think, one of the worst throne room variants. Although, I mean, being a throne room, it's still very strong. Yeah, I think these players are overvaluing Prince pretty substantially. So, like, if you think about what Prince is realistically doing for you, the main benefit it's giving you is +1 draw every turn. You're playing like 1 extra card, and all these are given like +1 card. Maybe if you Prince Demote, you'd be getting +2 draw every turn. But you know that's like okay. But Hunting Party costs 5, doesn't require setup, and also draws you an extra card every turn. And so it's doing the main thing for you. Now Prince also gives you village effects, but there's royal carriage around, which once you start needing villages, you just buy royal carriages, call them on hunting parties, and then the royal carriages give you +1 draw and +1 action. And that's just these cards are just doing everything that the Prince is doing, but better. Prince at 6 might be good. Probably about as strong as Hireling, which is, I mean, like not a phenomenal card, but is playable. If Prince costs 6, there are probably more chances to gain and play 1. Like in this kingdom, if Prince costs 6, you could wish for Prince in a context where you knew you had a target in hand already. Like draw your deck, play Leprechaun, gain wish, turn it into Prince, put a card down. That's not clear to me. Like, if you've got Torture and Margrave and cost reduction, you've already got a pretty strong kingdom. And it's not at all clear that in a strong kingdom like that, you'd be willing to go out of your way to buy a Prince, forego playing your Torture or Margrave for a turn to set it aside. And they're like, yeah, once you got it, that's nice. But you might have taken the foot off the gas in a Torture game, and then you take all the curses and they don't. And so, like that, that might be good, it might be bad, but it's not clear to me that that'd be like a very strong effect. All right, so we're well into the greening phase. These poor decks are just drowning in gold. And the problem is, like, once these decks get going, I think hitting 8 in this kingdom is pretty trivial with the golds and the draw and all that. And so what you really need is enough deck control to make sure you're doing more than just hitting 8. Like 1 province per turn is not enough. You want to be able to do like double province or province plus duchy. And a deck with fewer golds but more reliability can reliably find the golds that it has and also their plus buy card. And also their wish or whatever it is. Whereas if you've got a deck full of golds, you're probably just hitting 8 every turn, buying 1 province. But then your opponent is buying 2 provinces or province and duchy, and then they're beating you in the long run. All right, so Schortie needs to do double province and a duchy to win, which doesn't look... wait, what? I'm confused. So they passed up a free wish there. They had 6 cards in play and a Leprechaun in hand. They could have played Leprechaun, then Treasure, then Druid, and then they would have gotten a wish. And yeah. Why are you getting more gold? Stop! You don't need those. So I guess you do province duchy here. If your opponent buys 1 more, double duchy's fine, but like if your opponent buys 1 more province, you're done either way. And so I'd be fine leaving the province pile at 1, just because like even if they don't in the game next turn by buying province, they take like a pretty instrumental points lead with buying province. Uh-oh, did that happen? So I guess here's yet another problem with Prince is it is awfully fickle. The card has got to get set aside again at the end of the turn, and so there's a lot of ways for Prince to fail. So one is duration cards. Like if you ever Prince a duration, then you're in for bad time because the duration card will stay out of play for the next turn, and then you will fail to set the duration card aside at the end of turn, which means Prince will stop playing it. So you Prince the duration, you get to play it once, and then it's just gone for good, and the Prince is wasted. Another case might be like encampment or something, where you Prince an encampment and then it sets itself aside because you failed to reveal a gold, and then your Prince is wasted. Here's one I hadn't even thought of, but if you Prince Walled Village and then fail to play at least 2 action cards, the Walled Village top decks itself, which I'm pretty sure is optional, but they chose to do it anyway, not realizing what was going to happen. And if the Walled Village top decks itself, well, it doesn't go back aside for next turn, which means your Prince stops playing it. Okay, so did Schortie pass up a win? I wasn't looking. I don't think they had enough money, but they were really quick to call Royal Carriage on something that wasn't their Druid. The thing I'm looking at is, so they need 12 more points to win, which means Province Double Duchy, which means they need 3 buys, and to get 3 buys, they need to call Royal Carriage on Druid. And they did not do that. But I think that if they had, they wouldn't have had enough money anyway. They would need to hit like 18, which they don't have. Prince is a weird card that I think is unintuitive. I can easily see someone making that mistake if you're not familiar with it. The easiest way to avoid these like weird Prince issues where you like don't reset your card aside and then it loses track and then the Prince just stays out of play is to not get Prince in the first place, in which case you never make this error. So SvennoBenno's really struggling to close out the game here, but Schortie's deck is not together enough to punish that. And here we have the win. Game 1 to SvennoBenno. How many syllables would you say are in Svenno? Is that a 2-syllable word? Bandit Fort would be painful here. They'd have like -14 and -16 respectively. What is SvennoBenno? The name as a whole kind of has like an Italian ring to it, but I don't think Sven was an Italian name. That was very conveniently timed by Schortie. Thank you for asking that. That might clear up my ambiguities. At the exact moment, I was speculating about Svenno's nationality. I'll admit I did immediately go and check the list of viewers to see if Schortie was listening. That's weirdly coincidental, but they do not appear to be. Sven is a German name, right? I suppose that's Schortie's reasoning for asking. More northern. Oh, like Scandinavia? I don't know. Somebody from Germany or Scandinavia, do help me out. Aha! Validated. I'm not sure what the holdup is here. Svenno. Old Norse for young man. Okay. Svenno, where you been-o? Aha! Belgian. Okay, what have we here? This kingdom looks pretty strong. So you got thinning with Temple, you got draw with City Quarter, you got all sorts of plus action, Bandit Camp, Festival, Squire, City Quarter, plus buy, Squire, Festival, City Quarter, not City Quarter, Squire, Festival, Skulk, I mean to say. And then Haggler for gains. Haggler with City Quarter is a little bit awkward, because presumably you're buying City Quarters throughout this game, and with Haggler in play, the only things cheaper than City Quarter, strictly speaking, are Copper and Curse. Because City Quarter is neither more nor less expensive than any of the other Kingdom cards, because it costs more in debt and less in coins, which makes it incomparable. So if you have Hagglers in play and buy a City Quarter, you're forced to gain Coppers or Curses. So Haggler, I think Haggler will still be worth it here, but like that's like a reasonable concern that you have to watch out for. So for the opening, I certainly want to open with a Temple in the opening. That seems like a given. Silver seems fine. I think you could consider, like on the 4-3, maybe you're inclined to do like Temple, save Estate, and Pearl Diver, something like that maybe. What did they do? Svenno goes for a Silver Temple, seems a-okay to me. Shorty goes for a Skulk Squire. I don't like that. There's also a mistake within this opening, which is, so on turn 3, on turn 2, they had 3 coppers and 2 estates in their hand. And they're buying a 2-cost card. So let's say you've decided that, like, I've got 3 coins, I want to buy a 2-cost card. That's fine. The problem is you get 3 money, you get this event save here. What you could have done is save an estate and then buy a Squire. And that's basically just like a free laboratory effect for next turn, because your estate is now missing the shuffle. You're about to reshuffle your deck right after turn 2. And if you save the estate is staying out of that shuffle. So you've shuffled a deck that's got 1 less estate in it, which is saving you 1 draw. And so Svenno passed up on like 1 extra draw for free. The effect does not work equivalently if you do it on turn 1. So imagine Svenno had wanted to open like Squire Temple or Squire Skulk or something. On turn 1, saving, like buying Squire and saving an estate wouldn't actually do anything, because you would take that estate, you put it back in your turn 2 hand, and then you'd shuffle your deck after turn 2. So that estate's going back in the same shuffle anyway. The key difference is you're shuffling your deck between turn 2 and turn 3, but not between turn 1 and turn 2. So if you save the estate and keep it out of the deck, on that turn where you're shuffling your deck, you're saving yourself a draw. Anyways, catching up. I'm already strongly suspecting that this game is going to go to Svenno. Key priority to me here is thinning quickly. Temple is the card that matters now. Temple, I think, can often be, it's hit or miss, I think, sometimes. It's reasonably good at trashing, but also not good at hitting price points. So some kingdoms, like that last kingdom, where you've got strong 5s that give you fast tempo and good draw, like Hunting Party, maybe Temple's not the highest priority early on, because you just want to get to 5 ASAP, and then start reliably buying Hunting Parties every turn. And Temple's not going to be good at hitting your price points. And so it's one of those cards where if you got a strong kingdom where you can just muscle through your junk with a lot of draw, you might delay it or pass up on it. In this kingdom, I think trashing is really important, because the main draw is City Quarter, but City Quarter is going to be unreliable as long as there's junk in your deck. You've got to have a starting hand that's got City Quarter and a bunch of actions in it. So it's really important, if you want your City Quarters to work, to get rid of all the coppers and estates and stuff, so your deck kicks off reliably. So here I think a key early game priority is thinning fast with Temples to get a clean deck. Then you add your City Quarter and it starts drawing. Yeah, save is also going to benefit City Quarter. You can save excess City Quarters to make sure you've got one in the starting hand. Save also means you'll have a 6-card hand, which means you can line up more actions with City Quarter. But playing this without thinning is going to be real hard. Oh no. Did Svenno take a city? Not city. Svenno. Yeah, gold is not the card you want here. Not at all. So if you're trying to build a coherent deck here, the only draw is City Quarter. And City Quarter is going to be amazing. Especially once you got Citadel, you get to play that City Quarter twice. You're going to draw so many cards. Drawing your deck will be pretty trivial. It's the key thing is just having a City Quarter in hand and having some actions. And so the key thing is just get a deck that's mostly actions, add some City Quarters to it, and it'll pop off from there. Adding gold seems incredibly counterproductive towards that goal. Not to mention there's just better cards here for payload. Haggler is better than gold at payload and it's an action. Festival's 2 coins and a buy, which is probably better than 3 coins. Or what about Bandit Camp? Bandit Camp is kind of nice. Even if you don't need the plus action at all, Bandit Camp is a gold that always bottom decks itself, which is great for City Quarter because you want your treasures at the bottom. You want the actions at the top to kick off your turn, and then you draw to the end of the deck. So you put Bandit Camps in your deck, then you play the Bandit Camps, gain the spoils, and then draw them at the end of the turn. Bandit Camp just seems strictly better than gold to me here. So I was thinking this game was already lost for Schortie when they neglected Temple. But Svenno does not appear to be building an engine, in which case that makes it kind of anyone's game still, I think. Just because, if we're both playing big money, the value of thinning is, it's more marginal. I would still probably play with a Temple, I guess. But, thinning is much less important for a money deck. You just, shove a bunch of treasures in it and it's fine. Now the problem with playing money is money just gets slaughtered by the engine. But if neither player is playing an engine, then it's less clear that the player who's trashing has an advantage here. How does Sven have 3 estates still? That's a good question. Did they not open with Temple? What happened here? Oh, so they had a bad draw turn 3. They lined up to their Temple with 4 coppers. That's really unfortunate. And then when did they see their Temple next? And then, wow, yeah, turn 7, they also lined up Temple with coppers. I guess what you probably could have done is on this turn 3, rather than play the Temple, maybe you just play your 4 coppers, buy something, and save the Temple so that you have it in hand for turn 4, and then trash the estate. Remember, you're not shuffling your deck between turn 3 and turn 4, so saving a Temple from turn 3 to turn 4 is not making it miss a shuffle. If you have the Temple in your hand turn 4 with 4 coppers, I would just play it. Because I'd rather play it, get it back on the shuffle, and see it again. But if you save from turn 3 to turn 4, those are still within the same shuffle of your deck. And so saving it from turn 3 to turn 4 is not hurting your ability to play Temple in the next shuffle. And we're already provincing. Yeah, any hopes of this game being an engine, I think, are long since dashed. They have not really built their deck accordingly. I think that was a mistake by Svenno discarding that Haggler. If you discard the Copper, which was also a legal play, then you're hitting 9, which is more than enough to buy your province, and then you can save the Haggler for next turn. Yeah, Halo Annie. This is definitely one of those, like, build a massive engine kingdoms, undoubtedly. Yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I admire the spirit of trying to trash your cards, but turn 15 with 3 provinces left is too late. It is too late to be thinning and building. You should have just trashed like the estate and then bought a province. I think if Schortie bought a province last turn, they were like in an okay spot. Because then if Svenno buys province, it's at least risky. If you buy province, they have a province, you buy province back, well, you win. But now it is Schortie who's in an awkward spot. Again, looks like another mistake to me. Like, if you want to trash, like, trashing is great. You should trash your cards, but you've got to do that early. If you trash your cards early, that pays dividends for the rest of the game. Now Schortie is on like what is likely their like final shuffle, and they're trashing cards at a time where it's causing them to miss key price points in the end game. Like there, they trashed a Copper, which stopped them from buying Temple, so they passed up on victory points. That's true. They also save is like a really good event. It's just really helpful, nifty thing that makes your deck a lot more reliable and avoids duds and stuff. And they're making much less use of it than they should. Double Duchy seems like the best you can do there. And no dice here for Svenno. They can't quite close it out. I was wondering whether playing Pearl Diver before Bandit Camp was worth it, and it looks like in this case it might have been, because you go to top deck a gold and hit 8, but I don't think it'll make any difference. Trash a Copper, buy a Duchy, gain a Temple. They're scoring 6, 7 more points off of that. That's more than enough. This is a weird... No, this is wrong. This is wrong. I mean, it's not going to matter. 13 points is still plenty of a lead. But if you want the Temple, you can just buy the Duchy and then gain the Temple off of Haggler's effect. That's not Haggler. Haggler's effect. There's no need whatsoever to buy the Temple directly. I'm also confused why they bought a Pearl Diver and gained a Copper. So this is the win in hand for Svenno. So it'll be 2-0 going into game 3. Oh, wait. I spoke too soon. They've got Envious. They do not have the win in hand. I mean, I don't think Schortie has any chance of coming back, but it's not quite the win yet for Svenno. Schortie is fighting in vain here. This is one of those games where, like, you know, if one side is building and the other one is not, I could easily see coming back from like a 20 or 30 point deficit in this kingdom without worrying too much. But this is a case where neither player is building. They're both just playing money, in which case it's kind of hard to come back from such a large point deficit because, like, your deck's not really doing more than your opponent's on a given turn. Okay, game 2 to Svenno. I believe it is Shorty's turn to go first again. Okay, what have we here? This one looks a little bit tricky. Huh. So the big limit is there's no villages except, you know, Pixie, 1 in every 12 plays you can get Field's Gift, which is a double village. So I don't think you can do the bridge mega turn. I think this is a kingdom where I think you're actually playing something that's basically money. Just, you know, you get sewers and you'll get thin really fast with goat, then throw a few courtiers in there and gain a few golds, and then you're straight to provincing on like turn 7 or something. I think that sounds fine to me. So for Shorty here, absolutely click sewers turn 1. You know you've got a goat coming up in your turn 2 hand, and so if you click sewers turn 1, you're going to get to trash 2 cards on turn 2, which is just great. For Svenno, they've got the goat in their turn 1 hand, so there's less reason to do that. Yeah, so here's a clear mistake from Shorty. Oasis is just Fisherman, but worse. Fisherman is +1 card, +1 action, +1 coin. Oasis is the same thing, but it makes you discard a card. And they were on turn 1, which means they had no cards in the discard, which means Fisherman cost 2. So they could have bought Fisherman, which is just like strictly better than Oasis. So, you know, buying Oasis turn 1 was a mistake. Haka has a different idea. So Haka's idea, I assume, is keep the deck really lean, and, you know, you're not playing Bridge Megaturn or anything, but maybe you just like have a ton of Fishermen and, I don't know, maybe some Will-O-Wisps in there off of the Pixie. And then I guess you're playing like 1 bridge every turn as your terminal, I assume, at the end of that deck. And then maybe that deck gets to like double province. I could see that being competitive. All right, I like sewers from Svenno. I like sewers from Shorty. What are the good courtier targets in this kingdom? So there's Goat, which you start with, is a 2-type. There's also Pixie. Pixie's not ideal because, I mean, you have to play Pixie after Courtier when you normally want to play it before Courtier. Not Outpost. Outpost is also a good target, but Watchtower is the other one that strikes me as a potentially good target. I think if I'm playing with Courtiers, I probably want like a Watchtower or 2. Watchtower is particularly nice because you can top deck the gold with Watchtower's effect, and then you play the Watchtower and you know for sure you're going to draw the gold. Yeah, trashing Copper seems like a mistake to me. They discarded the estate with the Oasis instead of keeping it around to trash with their goat. Swashbuckler money does not sound good to me. Your deck's going to be really thin, which makes it not easy to activate Swashbuckler. I mean, I guess you could do like Oasis Swashbuckler, but that just sounds like you're going through a lot of effort to get the treasure chest when there's just, I think, a card that gains you golds much quicker. You got to consider this is like a fast kingdom. Goat with sewers especially it's gonna clean up your cards really fast. I think you could be provincing on like turn 7 or turn 8 here, and so there's not like a whole lot of time to do the build up Swashbuckler to 4 coffers and then get the chest and start filling with golds. By the time you do that, your opponent probably has like 3 provinces. Will-O-Wisp, I think I would take that. Yeah. Will-O-Wisps are just they're nice cards. I think Swamp's Gift is one of the better gifts to get off Pixie. Certainly early in the game. Plural of Oasis is Oases. So the first way you spelled it, not the second one. O-A-S-E-S. And also not that. So Will-O-Wisp is especially good to get early in the game when you still got a bunch of junk, because like if it hits a copper or an estate, it's like a laboratory. And this kingdom as well, as long as you don't have cards in your discard, which a decent amount of the time you won't, Fisherman will cost 2, and so Will-O-Wisp can also draw your Fisherman, which is nice. Yeah, there's sort of a compounding error to this Oasis, which is not only is Oasis worse as an opening than Fisherman because you have to discard cards, but if you're discarding a card every time you play your Oasis, then your discard pile is almost never going to be empty, which means it's going to be harder to get future Fisherman because the Oasis isn't. Oh wait, I just correctly pointed out that the plural is Oases and then said it wrong because of the Oases in your deck. I don't know their ranking in like a ladder sense. They are I think I got the seeds up. 285th seed versus 228th seed. And the winner goes on to play Auto PP in the round of 256. Watchtower. I like Watchtower largely because of its interaction with Courtier, but they don't have one of those yet. Maybe they're getting one soon. These Oases are really painful. You got a 1-card hand here. I mean, Sewers early seems really good with Goat. I thought Schortie should have bought Sewers turn 1. Oh, that's a valid point. Why did they buy Sewers and then never use it? Is, I suppose, a different question. Have they trashed the Sewers? Let's see. Well, Svenno used it. I don't know. Svenno's used it a few times. I think Svenno used it 3 times. Schortie bought Sewers and then never used it, which it's probably because the Oasis keep discarding all their junk cards, so they can't trash them. At the very least, we've got this. Wait. Oh, never mind. I misread that. I saw Schortie takes Sun's Gift, and I was like, why would they accept that boon? But I think it just says take Sun's Gift whether you actually accept the thing or not. That just means you picked it up off the pile. We do have this nice Oasis Watchtower synergy going on. It did just draw a bunch of actions dead. Yeah. Uh, so, like, early in the game, if you still got estates around and your Oasis discards an estate, you can think of that Oasis as being as, like, it's as good as a poacher or a fisherman or a peddler early on. And so oftentimes, Oasis on 3 can be a reasonable opening. But once you've gotten rid of the estates, that Oasis is about as good as a copper is. Like, if you're discarding a copper to get +1 coin, then all you're getting is, like, net. Like, you draw a copper, discard a copper, get 1 off Oasis. You've made as much money as if you just had the copper in your hand. And so Oasis is not very strong in large quantities. They're functionally just coppers. I think usually the main value of Oasis is either you open it early in a game where you don't want silver so much and you want to cycle a little bit faster than silver, or in some contexts it's strategically beneficial to discard. Like if you're playing with like a draw to X deck, like Library or Cursed Village or something, where you want to discard your junk cards so your libraries can draw back up to a larger amount, then maybe Oasis has some value. Like if there were a village here and you were playing like a mass Watchtower deck, I could see Oasis fitting here. But with no villages, just having 1 Watchtower in your deck I don't think is enough to justify the value of that Oasis. So Shorty is behind by more than 12 points with only 2 provinces left. And so it is looking likely that it's about to be a 3-0 for Svenno. That's a lot of trashing. Yes, if you had a hand of like Pixie, you could theoretically clear out 5 junk on turn 3. That's strong. I don't think that there is any way back in this for Shorty this game. But the match is still young. Shorty could 4-0 Svenno in the next 4 games and claim the victory. Yeah, Shorty does have a lot of terminal action cards. What is it? 2 Watchtowers, 2 bridges, and an outpost? Maybe more? I haven't kept close track. At the very least, that many. And with no villages, that means you're having a lot of terminal collisions in your hands and not getting to make full use of those action cards. Again, the main reason why you didn't need to build here, you really couldn't build very much here, is because of the lack of villages. And so this is a kingdom where you don't want to have a ton of terminal action cards in your deck. 3-0 going into game 4. Potentially match point for Svenno here. I think this game should end like turn 12. I guess that's not really Svenno's fault. Svenno took plenty of provinces. The game ended on turn 15 partly because Shorty wasn't greening. This is interesting. So we got Wall, which looks like it's interesting in a bad way. So we got Wall, which really penalizes having junk, and we got Ill-Gotten Gains. Those two in conjunction seem kind of painful. So on the one hand, Wall kind of makes Ill-Gotten Gains look good because giving your opponent a curse hurts. But at the same time, Ill-Gotten Gains decks usually end up taking a bunch of coppers off of the Ill-Gotten Gains to hit 5 consistently, and you can't do that with Wall around. So I think on net, Wall probably hurts Ill-Gotten Gains more than it helps it. You got some other interesting stuff here. You got Rats, which works kind of nicely with Improve. You can improve your Rats into a 5 cost. You could also maybe expand them into stuff. So I could totally see playing with Rats here. You're certainly not building an engine here. There's no draw whatsoever. So you're playing money. I think Treasure looks important. Trashing a copper is good with wall around, and treasure is just a good money card in general. I think probably the simplest version of a deck you could play would just be like get a treasurer, get a horde, and then just go straight to greening. I think that'd be fine. I could see messing around with like improve and rats a little bit, and that might be worthwhile. What did they do? So Svenno opened rats silver. I don't make sense of that. If you're opening with rats, I think you're opening with improve, because the benefit of colliding them seems really high, and colliding rats with silver does nothing. So if you're opening rats, I think improve is mandatory. Schortie opens silver improve, which I also don't really get. So like, you've got an improve, but what are you improving with that improve? If you didn't get rats, well, the only thing you can improve is your improve, which you would have to improve into a rat, because that's the only thing costing 4. But then now you've got a rat, and you've trashed your improve again. So the improve just seems like silver, but worse in that case. I would think that, like, if you switched these buys around, and like one of them bought rats and improve, and one of them bought silver and silver, both of those I think would be coherent openings. But I'm kind of confused by each of theirs. Yeah, sometimes you buy improve on turn 1 or turn 2 because there's a 4 cost you really want, and you're just going to play the improve once and then trash it into the card you actually wanted. But in this case, the only 4 is rats, which you'd only want if you wanted improve, so you wouldn't want to kill the improve. Good point. If you buy Humble Castle, you could improve your improve into Crumbling Castle. Expand Treasure IGG sounds too cute to me. If you had like an engine, I could see putting all those cards in it, where you like trash the IGG into a province with expand, then regain the IGG from the trash with treasurer's effect to recurse them. The problem here is I would expect my opponent to have treasurers as well. And if it's a money game, well, I'm probably not reliably lining all that up with a village or anything. And so chances are I'm probably like playing expand, trashing IGG, that's the end of my turn, and then I leave an IGG in the trash that my opponent might steal. And so that makes it a lot less worth it. All right, Shorty's going straight for provinces. I don't have any. I don't know their deck well enough at the moment to know whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. This is certainly a kingdom where I think you're incentivized to green early, so it's at least not obviously wrong. Buy IGG here. I could see getting an IGG here. It seems fine. Be back momentarily. Oh, my doggy saw the mailman, and she did not like that. Yeah, the rats thing is tricky, because, like, to improve the rats, you have to play the rats. So you got to line up rats to improve and gain a new rats. But if you're playing rats on turns where you don't have improve in hand, the rats are multiplying, and you're not getting rid of them. Like, improve itself doesn't actually reduce the number of rats in your deck. You gain a rat every time you play the rats, then you improve a rat. And so you're breaking even on rats every time you've got rats plus improve. And you're gaining rats every time you play a rat and don't play improve. And so you really want to make sure you keep the rats under control and you don't have like a million rats in your deck. And I think that opening with that rats and no improve has not helped their case there. Is Way of the Mouse the worst thing in Menagerie? Certainly not. It's among the better ones. I like Way of the Mouse. What is the worst thing in Menagerie? Cardinal. Cardinal is definitely the worst card in Menagerie. I do not like Cardinal. That one's far and away my least favorite Menagerie card. And then after that, probably Stockpile. Stockpile's kind of annoying. Most of the cards in Menagerie I quite like. Groom. Groom's hit or miss. And Engines, it's often really fun, like the auto-piling and whatnot. Groom does have those cases where it causes the board to degenerate into some like mad rush for gardens or something like that. And those aren't very fun. So I'll say Groom is below average for Menagerie card. Schortie's in the lead here. So looks like we might not be seeing a sweep. I mean, the game's still young, but there's a chance. Ooh, do you take a... As Schortie, would you gain a copper to buy province? So if you gain copper and buy province, you're scoring 4 points. If you trash copper and buy duchy, you're scoring 3 points. I think I prefer, as Schortie, gaining a copper off of that treasurer and buying province with it. So you're scoring 1 more point, which is an upside. You're putting 1 more copper. You're putting 2 more coppers in your deck essentially, which is a pretty big downside. So it's not like it's a clear choice. 1 more point for putting 2 more coppers in your deck. But one additional benefit is you've got the short-term points lead here. And buying province is bringing the game to an end more quickly than buying duchy is, because you're lowering the province pile. And so I think I would prefer to just buy the province there, even if it means gaining copper. Funny little play there from Svenno. Trash duchy into province, rebuy duchy. The expand is functionally just like a +3 coins there. Interesting that Schortie gained expand off of the rats. Opulent Castle is a victory card, and I think we're already in the point where I'd be looking at greening. I think I would gain Opulent. And if Schortie doesn't, I think Svenno probably should here. I think playing expand and trashing rats definitely looks better than playing the treasurer. I think as Svenno you you expand rats into Opulent, and then you buy something. I don't like that. It's fine. You can expand treasure into province now. Yeah. I'd rather just expand rats into opulent. That seems nicer. But this line's okay. I don't hate it. That was a really lucky draw for Svenno. I think playing the rats was reasonable. You have 7. You're willing to take a gamble at hitting 8. Trashing a crossroads isn't a big deal. But they got quite lucky drawing their improve off of it. I think either Duchy or IGG here both look fine. Do you want to set a max number of rats in the deck? I feel like that's a thing you evaluate situationally. Like, in that particular context, playing rats looked reasonable because you had a chance to hit 8 if you played it. Whereas there might be other contexts where playing rats is less reasonable. Oh, this is a really good. Play your rats. Play your rats. For sure. Play the. No, what are you doing, Shorty? Play the rats, please. You've got an improve in your hand. Play the rats. Play it. Shorty, no. What are you improving now? I mean, yeah, maybe you're avoiding triggering a shuffle, but it's like really unclear that that's good. It's like you're causing a treasure and an improve to miss the shuffle, but you're also causing 2 coppers, estate, duchy, sprawling castle, second duchy, third duchy off of rats to miss the shuffle. And so it's not at all clear that you want to avoid triggering that shuffle. So as Shorty, I think I just expand small castle into province. No, gold in the province is better. Expand gold in the province. There's 2 provinces left. Oh, actually, that's it. I think this is a tough choice here. I actually am unsure what the ideal play for Shorty is here. Playing small castle is one thing worth considering. Expanding rats is also worth considering. I thought expanding gold to Grand Castle is also an option. There's a lot of things there. I'd have to think about that play more. I was initially strongly on board with lowering provinces when Shorty had the points lead, but then Svenno just retook it at the end of their turn, which made it less clear. Trashing your haunted castle was weird. That haunted, who has the humble? Shorty has the humble. So that haunted castle is likely going to be worth 4 points for you if you manage to get King's Castle. Oh, no, Svenno, no. You had 2 expands in hand. You could expand into King's Castle. No, don't do that. Can Shorty get it here? Yes, they can, right? 3, 5, 8, 9. Shorty could take King's Castle here, which they probably should, right? Gain a copper and take Kings. How many castles does Shorty have? They've got Humble. They've got Grand. They got Sprawling. Yeah, for sure take King. Yeah. There's a silver in the trash. I didn't even realize that. I thought they're going to have to gain copper. Yeah. Well, with a silver in the trash, for sure take it. And it looks like Shorty's going to hit 8 again here, which I think should be enough to seal the deal and make this Shorty's game. I did not expect rats to only be at 2 left. But I guess that's how rats usually goes. So Shorty just needs to find an expand or... they already got the win in hand. Play the rats, buy rats. This is the win in hand. We'll see if Shorty sees it. They do not. Aww. I mean, they're still going to win because they'll just buy province. That's enough points lead. But if they played a rats and then bought the last rats, they would have 3-piled. Svenno can't play these rats or they just cause themselves to lose. Don't do it, Svenno. Don't do it. Alright, they're just falling on the sword. You could just press the resign button. But I guess they want to go down in style. Alright, comeback time for Shorty. Match is still young. Svenno's deck has 12 rats in it. How many other cards does it have in it? 1, 4, 8, 12, 13, 16, 21. So 12 out of 33 cards were rats. It's like over a third of the deck was rats. Okay, what have we here? This looks like a pretty straightforward kingdom. You got your draw, council room. You got some villages with plaza and bless village. You got trashing with rat catcher, expand, or church. You also got plus buy on the council room. This looks like a simple, you play your villages, you play your smithies, you trash some cards, you buy some provinces, and then you expand them in the end. Is there anything interesting to do with gamble here? I don't think so, really. I don't think this is a game where you're doing too much. Like, there's going to be situational context, as always with gamble. Like, you could expand a card into your discard and then gamble to play it. But it's not like the most important thing. So how are we opening here? Something like double church or church improve seem obvious to me. So we've got plaza improve from Schortie. I don't like that. Certainly plaza is a card you're going to want. But opening with a village is just generally a bad idea because the village can't possibly be doing anything for you until you got multiple terminals. Maybe the idea is to try to improve the plaza, but I don't really want to trash the plaza. Like, if I'm buying a plaza, I want to keep it in my deck. So I'm not a big fan of the plaza improve thing. Svenno goes for Fortune Teller Blessed Village, which I also am not a fan of. The Blessed Village, I guess, is at least a little bit better than plaza as far as buying a village in the opening goes, because you at least get a boon that maybe helps. But still, I think, kind of low on my list of things to buy in the opening. Fortune Teller as well is really bad. The attack does not hurt nearly enough. I would expect my opponent to trash their estates very early on in this game, in which case it's not going to be even hitting for most of the game. So it only gives as much money as silver, but it's terminal, and it's not really doing anything to justify the fact that you're wasting an action on it. Improve, at least, it's a more flexible thing. You can trash it and gain villages later as needed. And so improve I could see buying over silver, but Fortune Teller, no. Importantly, in 4 opening buys, not one of them bought a single trasher, which seems like a mistake. I think Church is a pretty good card. I want to open it with Church. So we're buying a lot of cartographers, and I don't know why. What is cartographer even doing for you? These decks don't make sense. So they've got a lot of villages, but I believe each of the two, they each only have one terminal. One of them has a fortune teller. One of them has an improve. So they have no conceivable need for any of the 5 villages they have between them. These decks have a total of 0 need for villages because they each have one terminal action in their entire deck, and they have now bought 5 villages. I don't follow that. And then if you've got 5 villages in your deck and you're hitting 5, I would think you want to add the nice terminal draw cards. Even library would be okay, especially if you got plaza. Like I like council room because it's got the plus buy on it, but like library wouldn't be the worst. But they're buying cartographer, which doesn't net draw you any cards. How many churches do you buy? The 2 openings I was speculating about were church, improve, or double church. So either 1 or 2. I don't think I want 3 churches. 3 seems like too much. 2 is often a good number of churches. Certainly, even if I don't get 2 churches immediately, I'm probably getting a second church at some point. Okay. Svenno's now got a council room. I like that. Certainly, you want to make sure the council room's on top there so you can draw it. And what do you buy here? Probably expand seems reasonable. Could have been second council room. Like council room rat catcher or gamble council room are also on the table. So, looks like council room's in order now for Shorty. I think I'd also be willing to improve one of these villages into a council room. Because if I'm not mistaken, they've got way more villages than terminals right now. So maybe just 2 council rooms. They turned their cartographer into a gold. I don't like that. I think that's a play that you could do at some point for sure. Once you're drawing your deck, turning that cartographer into a gold seems like a nice way to add payload. But you are not drawing your deck because there's no draw cards in the deck. So it is not time to turn the cards that help you get through your deck into the cards that stop you from getting through your deck. Certainly not yet. Svenno's got 6. I would think probably just a second council room here. Blessed Village seems fine. Svenno has a lot of coffers. Buy council room now? Pretty please? Council room. No. Why? Stop putting... Dang, that's not a council room. Oh... I saw the coffers decreasing, and I knew the council room was not coming. Expand is definitely... It's not the worst thing you could have bought. At first, it went from 5 to 6, and I was like, oh no, please don't buy the 6 cost card. But it expands at least better than gold. Yeah, Province also would have been an egregious mistake. Alright, Shorty's got the 2 expands. I'm not liking this build. I think, like, if you want to get thin, I think you do that by adding churches early. Once we're past that stage, I think what you want to do is add enough draw with council rooms to draw your deck kind of reliably, and then you can add expands to play at the end of that. Like, once you've drawn your deck, then you start playing your expands. What do you take here as Svenno? I think probably an improve is what I would take off of this expand. I'm kind of thinking what their deck needs right now. They have a decent amount of draw now with a library and a council room, so I don't think they needed a 3rd draw card. And improve would let me get this fortune teller out of my deck, and then, like, Svenno's at the point in the game where I would consider improving a cartographer into a gold, because now they're starting to get towards deck control, and that's gonna be good. This is a weird play. Yeah, this is just like a big mistake. So, Svenno played their cartographer. They looked at council room, copper, and silver, and they left a copper and a silver on top of their deck, which seems like a really good way to cause a dud. And looking at the starting hand, they have a pretty decent chance of causing a dud here. They should have discarded the copper and the silver and only left the council room on top. Like, what you're trying to do here in a kingdom like this is you want to maximize the chance that your opening cards have a village and a draw card in them. So you want to discard all the stop cards, the copper, the silver, even if you want those cards in your hand. Like, even if you're like, I really need a silver, discard the silver, and if you find your council room in your village, you'll draw back to the silver. But if you start with the silver, well, you're going to cause yourself to dud, and then your turn's going to go nowhere. They still have a chance here. Nope, yep, they dudded. This is entirely their fault. They could have stopped this by using their cartographer last turn, and they did not. So here I think I would have gambled, because you know your fortune teller's coming, not your fortune teller, your expand is coming up. You could gamble to the expand, trash the fortune teller into something or other, probably gold, I guess, and then buy like another village. Who has a duchy? Svenno has a, not Svenno, Shorty has a duchy. That's monumentally wrong. Why are you taking duchies? This deck isn't even remotely together yet. It is not time to be scoring. Plaza or Blessed Village, it might depend on context. I mean, Plaza plays nicely with Library if you've got that, which Svenno has. I don't think I would be using libraries at all, but like it's not bad here. My guess is maybe something like one Plaza just to have like a little bit of coffers, and then otherwise Blessed Villages. But I'd say they're in a similar power level, all things considered. I guess the other thing to consider is if your opponent, like let's say you're both choosing draw cards, and your opponent chooses just council rooms and you choose council room and library, your opponent's council rooms are actually going to hurt your library a ton because they're going to draw you a big starting hand, at which point your library is going to be useless. Svenno's library is putting in work, but I think that's largely because Schortie here has not bought draw cards. And so their starting hand is only 5 most of the time. And so I think I'm leaning more and more towards just council room for sure, just because if you both do that, well, you know that they're going to get some type of draw card. If they just get council room, that kind of counters library. Yeah, I mean, the argument for library is if you can use Plaza or Expand, you could be drawing 4 or more cards with library without drawing your opponent any. But that relies on finding your libraries towards the top of the shuffle and stuff. And church is also going to count against library. Like they don't have churches here, but they should. And so something I'd be expecting to do it late in the game is like setting aside my provinces, and I've got a big starting hand with provinces in it. So like I don't hate library. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's playable here, but I think ideally I'd probably just click council rooms. Double here is fine. I don't know if their deck's really together, but it seems okay. I don't like that order. It looked like it wouldn't have made a difference, but you want to play your Ratcatcher first, because if you draw a village off the Ratcatcher, then you can play your Expand before your library and draw more. Well, not like this. Not this way. I meant before the first. This is just all wrong. Now they're drawing a bunch of stuff dead. Before their first library, not after the first. If they had played the Ratcatcher before the first library, then they could have played a second village, and they would have had 3 actions. Then they could have played an Expand, gone into 2 actions. Then they could have played their library and drawn a bunch of cards. They did that in not the correct order. So here I would assume you play a Fortune Teller and then Library. This order makes more sense. A little bit of a dud here, but I think Svenno will be fine. So I think as Schortie, you just expand gold in the province here. Discard that copper. Yeah. And I mean, you're probably lost, but that's your best chance. Maybe your opponent duds and you hit double next turn. But looking at Svenno's starting hand, they're almost certain to double here, I would think. Discard that silver. It is a very nice hand for Schortie, but one that likely is never going to get played. Yeah, this is just a winning hand. All right, that's the match. 4-1 for SvennoBenno, who claimed the winnow. And now they will play the 25th seed in the next round.